Hi everyone. Today during the next episode in our Work Together in the Sacred Feminine series, we're going to be talking about the goddess Isis and our ideas of nurturing. So when this series started, I really thought it was going to be much more focused on looking at actual mythology and detailed from a historical perspective. Excuse me. But what's really come through for me over the past few weeks is that this is really more of a personal exploration of our experience with the sacred feminine and of how we can heal areas of ourself that are wounded in relation to the sacred feminine. So each video in the series will include a goddess who aligns with an archetype or an aspect of the sacred feminine that we can explore for ourselves. And if you feel drawn to, I would encourage you to do lots of research on that goddess herself and explore your relationship with that goddess yourself. I can provide you with all the mythology there is out there in relation to a certain goddess, but at a certain point in time, it is up to you to actually step into a relationship with that archetype and that energy, much like with tarot. We can all of us who read the cards can talk until we're blue in the face about certain cards, but if you really want to have a relationship with the tarot system, at some point you have to have your own journey with each card and come to an understanding of what each card is for you. And that's something that shifts and moves, so that's not like a set, it has to be a certain way with each card or with each goddess. But at a certain point in time, you do have to step into your own relationship with these energies. Whether we're talking about cards, or we're talking about goddesses or gods, or fae, or any of that type of energy, you have to step into your own relationship with them at a certain point in time. So what's come forward for me over the last few weeks with this series is that this is really about examining different aspects of our experience that the sacred feminine holds and healing that within ourselves, those areas that are wounded, or perhaps we're not looking at something from a balanced perspective. So today we're going to be talking about this idea of nurturing, and we're going to interact with the goddess Isis as we do this ourselves on our own journeys. So I'm kind of like your cheerleader in this series, and I'm going to ask you some provoking questions, and then I encourage you to really allow this series to be about you experiencing the energy of these different archetypes and the sacred feminine as a whole, and seeing for yourself what the sacred feminine means to you and how you're going to incorporate it into your personal life. I think the goddess Isis is perfect to talk about nurturing when we step into this idea of the mother in goddess archetype in the sacred feminine. So we started the series looking at our bodies and the physical, the profane as sacred, and we really stepped into that with Pachamama, with Gaia, with Mother Earth, in this idea of the physical being as sacred as the spiritual, if we tend to look at that as being separate in our lives. This is a huge key to healing the sacred feminine and to stepping into authentically interacting with the sacred feminine, is to start with by honoring the physical experience and finding the spiritual within that experience for ourselves. This week I felt very called to discuss this idea of nurturing from the perspective of motherhood, from the perspective of Isis caring for her child Horus. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the mythology, but doing your own research, you can see that there are many occasions in mythology where Isis did protect her son Horus. And there's especially an instance with scorpions where she protected him and she brought him back to life. So what I want to encourage you to do in this video is to look at your idea of nurturing and mothering in your own life. Isis is a wonderful goddess and archetype to interact with as an empowered sense of the sacred feminine, because she holds the mother energy. but she also brings in a lot more of an active, fiery principle to the feminine in the mother role than many of us have experienced mother as being. Isis is able to be empowered, forthright, she stands up for what she believes in, she follows her path, she's unafraid to go wherever she needs to go, to protect, to care for, to be a part of the lives of those that she loves. So, this can be a very foreign experience of mothering energy for us if we've had difficulty with the mother archetype in our life. So what I would encourage you to do after you watch this video when the time is right for you is to sit down and really journal about or meditate with what your experience of motherhood has been like in your life. And you don't need to have been a physical mom to have understood this experience. So what, as a young person, as a young being, was your experience of mother? What was your mother like? How did she treat you? How did it feel to be mothered and rely on another human for your daily needs? So start from childhood. Examine this aspect of motherhood from childhood. And then go from there with that. Perhaps going into the teenage years and looking at your experience of being mothered as a teenager, as someone who was opening or is opening up to new ideas and forming your own beliefs about life. Sometimes running right smack into your mother's ideals and beliefs about life as well. What was that experience like for you? What was it like to be nurtured, not only as a child, but as a teenager as well? What is your experience of nurturing and mothering then through your teenage years? And go ahead and keep examining that through teenage years and into adulthood if you're an adult watching this. And then if you are a mother or a father yourself, what is your experience of nurturing another? Or if you're not a mother or a father to a physical being, what is your experience of nurturing your loved ones, of nurturing your pets, of nurturing an idea or a belief you have, or protecting something that feels fragile to you? What is your experience of this in your life? Because it's important for us to examine. This is why I'm always going to encourage this type of journal work in this series. In order to approach something from a whole perspective, we have to examine the beliefs that we have about ourselves and our life. And this one can be tough because the idea of mothering and being mothered can be very touchy for us and can be something that it's difficult for us to release fully or step into fully or be honest with ourselves about what our experience was in this case. So go ahead and journal or meditate with these areas of your life, with what nurturing has been like for you, being nurtured has been like for you, and what motherhood, what your experience of being mothered or being a mother has been like for you in your life. Then I'm going to encourage you to sit with what a balanced perspective in your experience of nurturing looks like. So what would it look like to be nurtured from a balanced space, from the energy of Isis, which is an empowered, feminine, nurturing, creative space that is able to care for you, understand your needs, and assist you in receiving your needs, but is not smothering or unable to see other people's viewpoints or work as a group towards a united experience that's beneficial and powerful for all. So what does that look like? What would that look like for you? Because when we're interacting with Isis and this idea of nurturing, we have to first of all bring it back to being nurtured ourselves, because we cannot truly nurture anyone else in our lives until we are able to be nurtured ourselves, not from a balanced interaction with the sacred feminine. Oftentimes we'll find if we are someone who wasn't nurtured or heard for who they truly were, or had an experience of being able to be free with identifying what they would like to believe in their life, if we're someone who's been ignored or held down in certain ways by those who have nurtured us in our life, perhaps growing up for most of us, then a lot of times our idea of nurturing others and caring for others, especially if we identify as healers in this physical form, is actually coming from kind of a skewed vision. So maybe we are over nurturing everyone around us in our lives, but it's because we want to be approved of and cared for and seen and heard. And this can happen to all of us, so we have to be really honest when we start to look at this. And Isis always encourages us to be brutally honest with ourselves, but not in a shame or judgment way, a way that empowers us because we're able to release what's no longer serving us. So it's very important for us to take a look at how we are nurturing others in our lives, caring for others in our lives in a way that is not actually balancing the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine for ourselves. This can be kind of sticky and really uncomfortable for us to step into. But I'm going to encourage you to sit with this and to take the time to do this work. This is a slower series for a reason. If you really dedicate yourself to interacting with these different aspects of the sacred feminine, it's going to take some time to kind of peel back these layers and look at areas for ourselves where we're not experiencing the sacred feminine in balance. So, deep breath. Be honest about your experience of being a nurturer in your life, as well as receiving nurturing. Perhaps you're in a situation where you can really only be nurtured by someone else when you've absolutely run yourself into the ground and you feel like you're on your last leg, and then you can finally allow someone to take care of you because you are now worthy of being nurtured. If you hadn't gone through all of that pain and suffering, then you wouldn't have been worthy of being nurtured in your life. So it's very important to look at this idea of being nurtured in this way with Isis, and it's a very honest way, and it does require some time on our part, journaling, meditation, really sitting with the ways that we kind of beat ourselves up about experiencing nurturing and nurturing others as well. That kind of skewed perspective that perhaps we've stepped into because of certain interactions we had at pivotal points in our lives. And the beauty of interacting with the sacred feminine in this way is that it's time to release that pattern. You wouldn't have started this journey with the sacred feminine in this way if you weren't ready to release this pattern. So, examining first of all what your experience of mothering and nurturing has been, what you would like it to be, and how you're actually interacting with nurturing and mothering now in your situation where you are, and being really honest about this and getting into those kind of sticky, uncomfortable spaces. And Isis is one of, in my opinion, one of the most kick-ass goddesses to work with this mothering energy with, because she's going to hold you to your end of the deal, which is taking this journey and going all the way down into the dark stuff. Because she does hold a mother energy, but she's also a major goddess in her pantheon. She can hold also maiden and crone energy too, if we're looking at that trinity that a lot of us who are identify as pagan choose to honor with the sacred feminine. So she can hold that mothering space in a masculine way also, of kind of like really encouraging you to go for it and to be very truthful and honest, and not it's a gentle fierceness because it's it's always coming from a loving place, but it's extremely ruthless and getting down into stuff. So Isis can hold that mothering space for us, but also hold the crone energy of pushing us down into the dark and supporting us to release a lot of this stuff that's holding us back from living a life that we would like to live in this human form. And as we started the series, we know that the human form is sacred in and of itself. And so part of that sacredness of the human form is enjoying this life that we're currently experiencing right now. Even though we're experiencing all others simultaneously as well, our consciousness is right now in this moment expressing itself through this human form. So with Isis, we're being encouraged in this video, in this series, to take a look at this idea of nurturing and the ways in which we experience nurturing in shadow, to use that word that all of us have been talking about over the last few years. How are we manipulative with nurturing? How are we fearful of nurturing? And how do we incorporate shame and guilt into this aspect of nurturing for ourselves? This is what I'm going to encourage you to sit with and to journal about over the next few weeks. And at every point in time that you sit down to do this, I'm going to encourage you to invoke Isis if you feel called to do so. She will assume her own identity with you, create her own experience with you, and assist, support, and guide you in going into these darker places of the self and releasing an insistence on repeating the same experience over and over again for ourselves so that we can prove to ourselves unconsciously that everything that we took on was right from the ego perspective. So it's very important to dive down deep with this and to allow Isis to pull us from a mothering space into crone energy, which is very truthful, and really looking at releasing all of the sticky stuff. So I'm going to encourage you to sit with that and then allow yourself to experience what nurturing and mothering feels like from a balanced space. So, I'm going to post a meditation over the next few weeks with Isis that will allow you to kind of take this journey when you are ready to and feel what it would feel like to experience mothering and nurturing from a balanced space in your life. So we are going to be going on this journey together, and Isis is going to guide the journey for us, examining what it is to experience nurturing from a balanced space where we're not trying to unconsciously prove something to ourselves or someone else, or be safe in the experience, as we so often step into. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to encourage you to really interact with Isis in this idea of motherhood and nurturing for ourselves. What our experiences of mothering have been, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and how that has formed our experience of our life now, and then how we kind of keep interacting with any of the wounded parts of our experience of motherhood and nurturing to kind of prove to ourselves that it needs to stay skewed in our daily life. Then we step into an experience of motherhood in a balanced perspective for us and what that would look like. Throughout all of this, Isis is a part of the journey with you, and she's guiding you through it. Again, it's your journey, so allow this to really be yours. Be selfish about this experience and take the time to take this journey with Isis. So meditate with her personally, read upon her mythology, explore the idea of Isis as mother to Horus and the choices and decisions that she made in her nurturing and care of him, in the balanced and the imbalanced as well through the mythology. And then spend a lot of time journaling and sitting with this idea of being nurtured. What is it like to be cared for? What has it been like? What have you taken on? How do you care for yourself? And you will start to see these areas of your own experience where you're kind of perhaps continually beating yourself up and not nurturing yourself at the inner plane, where you're not caring for yourself and loving yourself and honoring yourself and your needs and your boundaries on the inner plane. And once we can start to shift that for ourselves, then we can shift how we nurture others as well and bring that into a balanced space of interacting with the sacred feminine in an empowering, beautiful, feminine, nurturing, mothering way that is beneficial for ourselves and for others as well. So I encourage you to enjoy exploring this subject for yourself, to really sit with nurturing and being nurtured, and to interact with Isis over the next few weeks as you take on this leg of the journey together in the Sacred Feminine series. And just know and trust that I will be providing you with a guided meditation with Isis to help you to understand and sit with an experience and feel what nurturing and mothering in a positive way in your life feels like for you at this time. So be looking for that video next in the series. And in the meantime, spend a lot of time walking with Isis and exploring nurturing and motherhood. I am sending you all much love and many blessings. It is such a joy to work with you in this series. And it's been a powerful practice for me, too, to step into examining these archetypes at a deeper level. I'm doing this right along with you, so you're not alone on this journey. So much love, many blessings. I will see you in the next video.